Hi, welcome to episode 36. Been away for a while, but I'm back. That's cool. Diving way too deep into hot cross buns. Yeah, you know hot cross buns, or maybe you don't know the food. I'm pretty sure I've never actually eaten a hot cross bun, but I know what they look like. They're a bun with like a cross on the top, and presumably they're hot when you pull them out of an oven. I don't know. Let's talk about hot cross buns. You know the song? It's like hot, had to find it. Hot cross buns, 1 a penny, 2 a penny, hot cross buns. Let's write it out really quick. I think it's in 4/4. I'm gonna write it up here. Hot cross buns, that's a D. 1 a penny, 2 a penny, hot cross buns. Boom. There it is. Hot cross buns. Let's make a little accompaniment. You're going to see where I'm going eventually, I swear. Hot cross buns. Hot cross buns. Do. Sol. Do. Sol. Do. Just like a bass line, I just wrote it with its stems down and the melody with the stems up. Here's what that sounds like together on a keyboard. Greatest song of all time. Well, maybe it's tied with Mary Had a Little Lamb. Let's talk about two ideas we love in music theory. When I'm talking about diving way too deep into hot cross buns, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take this, what we call like the musical surface, right? This is like the surface level. And in music theory, we love talking about a more structural level of music, right? And we think about this continuum from what we hear on the surface of music, and then what like the music, how it's like architecturally put together. I should say right now, as I've said before and will always say, there's not like a value judgment here. We're not saying like surface as in shallow, as in doesn't matter. We're just saying there's like structural things that hold up a tonal melody and then surface things that make it more fancy. The surface stuff is what we love, right? The structures, there's only so many actual structures. In fact, if you think hot cross buns is really boring, it's because it has hardly any surface. It's like modernist architecture in how much its structure is laid bare, especially this first phrase. That pretty much is the structure. You'll see what I mean if I get there in 15 minutes. Oh God, no, I only have 12 minutes. Oh God, I better hurry. So we have two kind of verbs we talk about in music theory when we're working from the surface down to try and like figure out the structure from the surface. We call that, let me turn this sideways for a second. We call that reduction. Think of it like reducing a sauce. Maybe I've talked about this before. When we do it the other way around, so reduction is like going this way. When we do it the other way around, where we're working from a structure and trying to get our way to a surface melody, we call it generation. Like generating a melody from a structure, or reducing a surface to reveal the structure. That's kind of how we think about it. It is not a theory of like how people compose music. I should be clear about that too. It's just a theory of how tonal music makes sense to our ear. This is stuff I learned from my graduate school advisor, Robert Snarenberg, and it ultimately derives from a music theorist, Heinrich Schenker, this kind of thinking. And in a Schenkerian lingo, the surface is what we call the foreground of a musical structure, and the structure is what people call a background, so sometimes I'll use that language. Another kind of metaphor I like to use is zooming in or zooming out on some music, and I think all this stuff will make more sense if I just dive in and start reducing this line. Weirdly, instead of reducing it, I lied, I'm going to generate this line. and you'll see how this works. So here's a new sheet. So let's pretend we were just going to start with Hot Cross Buns like this. Just go with me here. Hot Cross Buns. Just accept what I'm about to tell you, which is that this is kind of our starting like germ for the whole of Hot Cross Buns. We got some kind of tonic-y, some kind of dominant, some kind of tonic. See the last episode to see what I'm talking about there. And we have scale degrees 3, 2, and 1. So something like this. That's like our very basic background structure. And from that, we're going to generate this whole song just using a couple simple procedures. You'll see what I mean. So first thing I want to do is kind of stretch it out, just visually. So I'm going to have these first two notes, and they're going to start. I should interject. I'm using this form of notation we use in music theory sometimes, so these aren't real like note values. I'm not drawing eighth notes with unfilled in note heads. These beams are to show this connection. And so here I'm going to break these beams, stretch it out. And what we're going to do is we're going to repeat both of those. That's one of the things we're allowed to do when we're generating a line in music theory, repetition. So I'm going to take my 3, 2, 1 here, and the scale degree 3, I'm going to repeat it before I get to scale degree 2 and scale degree 1. So here's the continuation of this beam that I broke off, right? And then same with here. Here's our scale degree 1. It's going to get repeated. And then we're going to have our last two members of this progression. Okay, so R stands for repetition, right? You can always repeat a note when you're generating a line. You can repeat it, and that's cool, and you should. Another thing you can do when you're generating a line is you can arpeggiate. Arpeggiating means jumping around in the triad, so in the tonic triad. I'm in the key of C. I didn't say that. Hopefully that's pretty clear by now. So what I could do is make a new version of this where I have my E, and then I arpeggiate down to a C, which is also in the chord, and then get back up to the E that I had repeated. Right? Sometimes in music theory diagrams like this, we like to show how a repetition retains a note with a dotted line. So it's like in your head, even though you went mi, re, do, so you went mi, do, mi, you're still kind of holding on to that mi until the end. Just go with me here, okay? That arp just happens to get harmonized with the same old C that we had here. And then this one was already there. And then here we got these guys. And this was the big one. Okay, all right, go with me. Now I'm going to take the space I filled with this arpeggiation. I'm going to fill it. I'm going to do some other things, actually. I'm going to do some other repetitions. Wait, let me go back. You're allowed to go back. It's cool. I'm going to put another repetition here. You can repeat a note as many times as you want. Okay, yeah, now I'm where I want. So now in the second level here, I've got this guy that was already there from a repeat, and this guy that was a repeat, and then I stuck in an arpeggiation. Now, I'm going to make a new level. I'm going to start where I started before, and, oh, so let me go back here. I want to put the C in parentheses there also. Okay, I'm going to put in an arp here, and then I'm going to put in another arp from this E, right? And then finally I'm going to get to my other E and make it back down. Again, like I say, I'm just trying to get some of this stuff on the page. If it's not quite making sense yet, we'll get there. So right now I have mi, do, mi, re, do. Cool. Now check it out. All I'm going to do now is fill in some of those arpeggiations. So I had a mi to do, and I had another mi to do, and then I had a mi, and then this re do was the re do all the way back from up here from my original re do, right? As I'm boiling this thing down. So here's my original do and sol do. I had these C's from arpeggiation. Now, mi, re. I'm going to add in a re passing note. Right, so we've had repetition, R, arpeggiation, arp. And now I'm going to use passing notes here and here. Passing. This is something we talk about in music theory. It's an embellishment whereby we have notes in a chord, aka arpeggiations, and we just fill in the space between them. So instead of going mi, do, mi, re, do, we're going mi, re, do, right? And let's put one in here too. Mi, re, do, re, mi, re, do. See how this is working? Now we're almost there. All we really need to do to get it generated is maybe one more level where all we have to do is some more repetitions. So mi, re, do, and then we'll just repeat this do a bunch. Do, 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 do. And then this re we had as a passing in the level before, we'll repeat a bunch. Re, 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 re. So these were all R's. And these are all R's. Oops, this one isn't an R. That one was already there. And then finally, mi, re, do. So there's our big mi. And our big mi lasted in our ears all the way up until here. Everything in here was like something we generated after the fact. Here's our big functional bass line, tonic, dominant, tonic. And then all our little bass lines that harmonize these little guys, like we could think of them almost as like coming off of there, right? It's like we talk about an embedded progression in music theory where we like squeeze apart this thing, stretch it apart, and we can do all these embellishments in there. And another thing we can do in there is we can embed little mini progressions in there. So look, this little mini progression happens twice. Hot Cross Buns. This. And notice how this little mini progression is exactly the same as our very basic, basic structure. Kind of neat. And then we harmonize these do-do-do-dos and these re-re-re-re's with their own beginning of a mini progression. And then finally we get back to this do. And so our big overall guy went from here and here. This got a little sloppy on this last phase. I'm trying to get finished in 15 minutes. But basically we have our song now. All we have to do is put it in rhythm and we made it to here. So pretty neat, right? Let's talk about it the opposite way really quick. So we were just doing it the generation way. I got 1 minute to talk about it as a reduction. So we take our song. Here's our first reduction. We figured it out. We took it out of rhythm. We have all the notes accounted for, and we're just figuring out which ones are the structurally important ones. Then as we work our way, boil our way down, we take different things out that were an embellishment of the conceptual level above the one we're at, all right? And we boil our way back down to here. The idea is these are equal opposite processes. One isn't more important than the other. They're always kind of informing each other. And it's basically, I'm just trying to introduce this whole way of thinking about musical structure and musical surface, from background to foreground or vice versa, by paying way too much attention to Hot Cross Buns. I will see you next time. Goodbye.